I wanted to welcome you and also explain that Superintendent Adams could not be with us this evening. She had a death in the family and is actually out of town attending to that, but true to fashion, she is calling in to provide her superintendent's report because that was important to her. I want to make you clear on the fact that we as a board have not required that she call in to do that. This was something she felt very strongly about that was grounding her. So we will be doing that, but I did want to at least explain to you that that is why she is absent this evening. So without further ado, if as the board, we invite you to join us in the Pledge of Allegiance if you would like to do so, and the flag is over in the corner. Pledge allegiance to the flag The mission statement of the City School District of Albany is that we will work in partnership with our diverse community to engage every learner in a robust educational program designed to provide the knowledge and skills necessary for success. Mr. Baker, do we have the superintendent available for the report? Do I have to do anything? Oh, good.
As we all know, community service takes many forms, both large and small. And while doing good is often its own reward, community service increasingly is a recommendation or even a requirement for more and more of our students. To help encourage our students and help them get credit for their community service, the district is proposing a pilot program with Passport for Good. Passport for Good is a locally woman-owned technology company formed in 2016 to provide a universal platform for capturing the positive impact of community service and work experience. I would like to thank the owner and CEO, Gail Farman, for her dedication to helping our students accentuate the positive value of giving back to our community. Passport for Good allows students to easily enter their personal and school service hours with a third-party authentication. This system helps our students develop a profile for their community service for college, careers, and future growth. Passport for Good also provides students with the data to showcase their collective good in the community. As we pilot this program this semester, we are focusing on 3 areas: Albany High School students participating in a service learning trip to Costa Rica, Albany High School Citizenship Academy, which will pilot a graduation course for community service for students who attain a certain goal, and Montessori Magnet School, which will allow all students to capture their in-school activities so that they can begin to build a long-term record of service. We also look forward to implementing this community service initiative because we believe that it will help our students gain a better interest or more interest in community service in a wide range of new ways. It will also help us level the playing field and give every student a chance to shine. And then finally, highlight the many, many positive deeds our students take part in all year round. It is flu season, and our school district is taking extra precautions to provide healthy environments for all students and staff. These steps include disinfecting all contact surfaces, such as door handles, railings, desktops, water fountains, and other surfaces. We would also like to remind our families about practices that they can take at home to help reduce the spread of the flu and the steps to address flu-like symptoms. We sent a communication home to all of our families today and also have shared on our website and through our social media channels. That letter and some additional helpful information for our families will also be posted on the website, but it is here tonight at the meeting. To date, our health services staff has not had an increase in the flu-like symptoms that we've seen in our offices. The Albany County Department of Health has not reported an increase. However, we are aware of the media reports of an increase in other parts of the United States, and we will continue to monitor this situation in our schools. At this time, I would like to officially welcome Jody Comerford to her new role as Albany High School's principal. Ms. Comerford took over this week, and we are looking forward to her leadership as we continue to move Albany High forward. Former interim principal Dale Ghetto will be on special assignment in our Office of Pupil Personnel Services. We are grateful to Ms. Ghetto for her services as Albany High's interim principal. Her dedication to our students throughout her career and as a member of Albany High School's administrative team are deeply appreciated. Thank you, Ms. Ghetto. I would like to offer my congratulations to this year's City School District of Albany Spelling Bee champion, Isaac Allen of Stephen and Harriet Myers Middle School. Isaac is a sixth grader at Myers. He was the last speller standing at our annual district championship last week. He will lead our team of 3 students participating in the Regional Spelling Bee in Schenectady on February 13th. Joining Isaac will be New Scotland Elementary School 5th grader John Gormley, our district runner-up, and Hackett Middle School's 8th grader Heidiette Crowdy, our third place speller. We will invite all of our school spelling champions to an upcoming Board of Education meeting to recognize them for their achievement. Good luck to all of our students participating in the Regional Spelling Bee. A reminder that applications for this year's pre-kindergarten lottery are now available. You may visit albanyschools.org to download an application or pick up one at Central Registration, any of our elementary schools, and at any of our community pre-K partners. Pre-K applications are due by March 2nd, and the lottery will be held March 14th in conjunction with our annual Magnet Elementary School Lottery. In closing, I must express my sincere gratitude to our Superintendent's Office secretaries, our cabinet members, Board of Education, faculty and staff who have reached out to assist me during this time. I extend my sincerest gratitude for everything that you have done to support my family and myself. I now would like to invite Principal Michael Polino to tell us some great things that are happening at Hackett Middle School. Mr. Polino has 2 guests to assist him with his presentation tonight, and so we would like to welcome 8th grade students Allison and Elizabeth Powell.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Welcome to Hackett Middle School. I will put together my disclaimer right now for the Board of Education, since you all seem to send me such lovely emails after June 23rd. There is no carpool karaoke tonight, and we will not be singing our morning announcements to any former songs on the radio, so I apologize. But I will also make sure with my 2 guests today that we keep it under 5 minutes, because I know I'm being timed. But welcome to Hackett Middle School. I want to first begin by just introducing our 2 students. I got to make sure I get them right. I do have Allison Powell to my left, and I have her sister Elizabeth Powell to my right. And before we begin our presentation, I'll just let them introduce themselves and kind of tell you a little about who they are and what they do in the building.
Hello, I'm Allison Powell. I'm an 8th grader. I play the flute in all school band. I also do chorus and STEM.
Anything else? Okay.
I'm Elizabeth. I play the alto saxophone in band, and I'm also in chorus. I do our STEM club for after school, and I also like playing lacrosse. Oh, and I do the morning announcements.
So with that, we just want to spend a few minutes with you, and we appreciate our opportunity to be with you today. I thought we'd be a little different. Again, being at Hackett, I know that we are always different. So rather than doing the entire presentation by myself, I've asked Alice and Elizabeth to help out. And so we're going to share the slides together tonight as we try to highlight all the great things about Hackett Middle School. Going down or going up? Down to advance. You got it. Okay. And we're off.
At Hackett, we have a mission statement, and our mission statement is we celebrate the strength of our diversity and foster a learning community based upon mutual respect and supportive relationships to achieve our full potentials as leaders, learners, and citizens.
We also have a PBS mission statement to implement a productive school-wide discipline plan to foster a positive learning environment that promotes common expectation, accountability, and models vigorous academic achievement and behavioral expectations.
At Hackett, we have a total of 649 students. In our 6th grade, we have one team with 130 students. In our 7th grade, we have a total of 252 students that are split in between 2 teams. And in 8th grade, we also have 262 students, which are also split into 2 teams. And we have 5 middle-level self-contained classrooms.
Our school is very diverse. For example, we have a 10% population of Asian and Pacific Islander, a 47% Black or African American population, a 17% Hispanic population, and a 26% white population. To break that down even further, 16% of our students have disabilities and 11% take English as a new language.
I'm not going to read all the way through the full slide here because we will be here all night. Just wanted to kind of give you an overview. We roughly have somewhere between 68 and 72 instructional staff members in the building. If I add the non-instructional staff members, we kind of top out around 100 faculty and staff members in the building. A couple of the things I just wanted to kind of point out is that as we've grown over the year, being a school identified in need of improvement receivership, we've made some important adjustments. When I started here 9 years ago, and yes, it is 9 years ago, we didn't have a reading teacher in the building. We now have 4. We have 1 at every grade level and 1 in E&L. We have an E&L sheltered program, so you'll see the 4 E&L teachers. The one thing that we always do to be successful in the building is we have our full service department. So we have our social workers and our Parsons behavior specialists. We have, what else do we want to do? We added a new Avid site coordinator to our building as Avid is growing throughout our building. 1 principal, 2 assistant principals, and this year, again, we're blessed to have 1 school improvement manager, Ms. Brody, who is with us tonight. So, January 16th, we had our state-led DTSTE review. So every 3 years, if you're a priority or focus school, you get the state to come in and go through the review. Ours was 3 days. The great thing about it is they've changed the process. If you're not aware of it, in the past, you used to get like a score, 1 not being so good and 10 being really, really good. And the main criteria was impact. How much impact were your programs making in the building? They've kind of since changed that, and now what they're trying to do is do a needs assessment and then provide you with recommendations. They struggle to come up with recommendations for Hackett. And that's because when they walked around the building and they saw a lot of the great things that were going on, we had to work together to make those recommendations work, and we're starting to implement them as we speak. But in our school improvement plan, I just wanted to highlight a couple of, I think, of the key things that are going on in the building that are making the changes. The building principals, assistant principals, and curriculum supervisors throughout the district continue to do walkthroughs throughout the building. That's probably one of the biggest things that we do in the building to help increasing, improving teacher instructional practices. We have a literacy coach, a math coach, and a data coach who meet 2 times a week during our common planning time. We analyze everything in the building, how students do on state tests, how they're doing on NWA tests, but more importantly, we're growing and creating our own formative assessments to measure progress in between. So without those 3 individuals, we wouldn't be able to get a lot of the work done that we do in our data protocol teams. Today we started our work with Dr. Jackson and Carmen Jimenez. If anybody knows the two of them, they are truly outstanding individuals. They're from Pedagogy of Confidence and On Point Leadership, and we are delivering professional development from last year's DTSD recommendation, providing teachers with the skills to provide feedback to students to improve their own individual goals, not only to set them, but also to monitor them. And then lastly, our RTIA and RTIB teams continue to analyze both academic and student discipline data. I put the RTIB here tonight simply because we continue to try to look at research-based interventions to continue to address the students with behaviors, because as you'll see shortly, academically, I think we're starting to hit a home run in the building. Oop, going the wrong way. Okay. Wanted to share this with you, kind of not in the template, but I think it's important. You may hear this or you may not hear this, but in Hackett, it's a big thing. It's called Friendsgiving. So the day before Thanksgiving break, we always have our parent-teacher conference day in the district, and we do parent-teacher conferences from 8 o'clock until about 1:30 in the afternoon, and then we come down here to the cafeteria. What started out to be voluntary, some teachers like to go out to lunch, some didn't, has now turned into, on this day, not one teacher leaves the building, and we have a faculty luncheon down here. We used to actually make our own turkeys and carve them the day before. That got a little crazy, so now we do a catered lunch. But we call that our Friendsgiving because the one thing that we always talk about in the building is the culture of Hackett Middle School. And no matter what teacher I would bring up today, they would tell you that the culture of Hackett Middle School is really a family. And so one of our teachers, several of our teachers took it upon themselves during class before Friendsgiving to give all the kids in the building a note, and it says, "I am thankful for this teacher." And when we came down, if you look at the two pictures on the bottom, from this side of the cafeteria all the way to this side of the cafeteria were sayings from kids to teachers. And it was kind of just a marvelous moment for me to step back and watch my teachers come down and just read the signs before we actually had our Friendsgiving luncheon. And I read them, and I pulled some out, and I took a picture, and this one's like my favorite. So I tried to blow this picture up for you. If you look over here on the turkey, it says, "I'm thankful for Mr. Manzo because he teaches even when he doesn't have to, and he makes me strive to get better." And those were posted on the wall. But my favorite one is the one in the upper right-hand corner. It says, "I'm thankful for Mrs. Polino because she's a nice lady." Bill, I didn't know she was on the payroll. So somewhere in the building, somebody thinks my wife works there, and she doesn't. But the kids are just funny, and when you see them, teachers are taking pictures left and right. It just speaks volume for what we do in the building. Our emphasis is always on rapport and relationship and building family, and so I just wanted to share that one with you guys because I thought it would be a little funny tonight. Hackett PBIS.
In Hackett, we have a PBIS team, and each quarter we have a no referral celebration. And last quarter's was a volleyball game in which 466 students participated with our student and staff. And then our next one's going to be a Family Feud game show. So if anyone is like a Steve Harvey host type of person, we're interested.
And just so the board knows, and again, we tried to give you the number, 649 students in the building. That means 466 students did not receive one classroom or one discipline referral for the whole 10-week period. So if you got just a classroom one from the teacher, but it didn't result in an after-school detention or something like that, you still were eliminated. So that speaks volumes in terms of what the kids are doing here in the building.
As it's been said earlier, our AVID program, or Advancement via Individual Determination, is growing. About 50% of our teachers are certified and so AVID prepares students for college, and this is offered in all grade levels from 6th to 8th.
This one's yours, I'm sorry.
Yeah. So, this is our first year doing a Saturday school program. At this program, we offer anybody who comes 2 meals, a catered lunch, and then a catered breakfast and a bag lunch. So they are focused hands-on, classes and things to help the students, while also we have a parent program so that they can also get help to help their students at home.
So I'm going to put my little plug in here just so everybody knows where we are. We started this year based upon the grants that we had. We average about 55 to 65 students or parents. Some students come by themselves, some parents come with them. so the parents that are Hackett parents behind me would understand. We have a hot buffet breakfast. I welcome the board and anybody else who wants to come in. It's like being at a diner in the morning. No one wants to go upstairs to do the work. But for the parents, we partnered up with Parent University, but on the months that Parent University is not here, we do a lot of fun things. So one of the things we did one morning is all the parents cook chicken parm dinners, and then they get to bring the chicken parm dinners home. The day before Christmas, we did Christmas cookies. And so all the parents were cooking Christmas cookies while their students were upstairs either doing ELA or math focus, and then you bring all the cookies home. We made, I don't know if it was cupcakes in a jar or cookies in a jar, whatever it was. But we want to get more parents here. And so it's not you coming here to do the work. It's getting you here so we can do the work with your son or your daughter related to ELA and math. So we have one this Saturday, Bill, if you want to join us for breakfast, 8 o'clock in the morning.
We have an extended day program right after school from 3:05 to 5:30 on Monday through Thursday, and approximately 200 students participate in this. And there are multiple clubs. There's tutoring with the college students, and then there's Glee Club, Upstate Gamers, Jazz Band, Cooking Club, and much more.
Oh, this one's me.
Yeah.
Oh, oops, gotta go back. This one's important. Oh, I can't ruin this one. I can't go back there, Andre? I am, it won't go back. Let's see if we go this way. We freeze? Yeah, basically what I was going to say is our girls modified team is undefeated. Yeah, I don't know what I did. But the girls modified basketball team is undefeated. And so they won today, and they have 2 more games left, and hopefully that's how they will complete their season. The boys basketball team is doing a great job as well. Our new math teacher, we wanted to give him a little bit of props. Mr. Fuccio is our first year here with us, came over from Lansingburg, has Dr. Chateau's son on the team. Just doing a great job with the boys. We don't have a lot of height on the boys team, but we wanted to give him some props as well. Did I kill it there, Ken? To save time, we only have a couple of slides left, and I was going to give the girls each one of them, but I'm going to blow through these real quick so we're okay. We had just 2 more highlights, and then we had a couple quotes for you. But the biggest highlight we were saving for the end is at the end of the first quarter marking period this year, we had 328 of our students walk across the honor roll stage. And in my 9 years here, that's gone from 188 kids all the way up to 328 students, or more than 50% of our building. And so really proud of the work the students are doing, and really proud of the work that the teachers are putting in to meet the needs of our kids. Just recently, our Future City team competed on January 13th in the Future City competition. This is the 2nd year in a row that they've won 2 awards. They won an award for Innovation Energy Source and for the use of recycling in public spaces. I'm probably like 2 ahead of you. Yeah, and then 1 more. Other than that, we are going to just show you our last slide is what do students think about Hackett? And some of the quotes that read are, my classes are pretty fun here, and the teachers and the other adults really care about us. School is a safe place for me, and I can be myself. This is my personal favorite. I am thankful for my principal because he is just not the rules enforcer. He is a friend. I'm excited about coming to school because I can see my friends and teachers, and I get to learn things that will help me in the future. And Hackett Middle School is a happy place to be, and my teachers help me with everything. And so that is our presentation tonight. And again, we always enjoy that opportunity. Any questions or comments, we would be more than glad to answer.
Thank you so much, Mr. Paulino, and thank you so much, Ms. and Ms. Powell. So really appreciate the presentation and the great news coming out of the school.
Thank you. We're all set, guys.
I just wanted to say thank you very much to the board and to cabinet and everyone, and this concludes my report.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Adams. Appreciate it, Superintendent. Be well. We are now at public comment. The Albany Board of Education welcomes district residents, parents, students, and other people to our meeting. We appreciate community input about the decisions we are making. In addition to accepting comments during the public comment period, we also accept comments by email, phone, or postal mail. While you are making your remarks, please keep in mind that by law, information about individual students and specific district staff cannot be shared. Every student and every staff member deserves to know that concerns about them will not be aired in public. Also, please keep in mind that public comment is not the best place to first alert the district to a concern you have. Please share concerns first with relevant staff, such as the teacher or principal. If you feel the concern is not addressed adequately, you may appeal to that person's supervisor up the chain of command if necessary to the superintendent, and decisions made by the superintendent may be appealed to the board. Finally, please note that the board generally does not respond during the public comment period. If you need a response, please consider contacting us by email, phone, or postal mail. When recognized by me, please state your name and city of residence. Statements are restricted to a maximum of 3 minutes. You will be given 1 minute notice and a 10-second notice, and I will notify you if your time has expired. Mr. Abdullah?
Thank you very much. First of all, I'd like to say, Ms. Smith, glad to see you. And Karen, glad to see you too. Well, I worked with Karen back over in Troy at the time, and it was exciting. Also, I went to this school, Hackett, back in 1960, and and it has changed a lot. So, congratulations to the principal. I got lost in here when I got here, but it has changed a lot. But my main focus is that I came here for was my concern was what happened at Albany High School a couple of weeks ago, or maybe a month ago. And I haven't met the new superintendent, but I was here to tell her I'm here to give her support. I'm a business manager for the American Muslim Society, and I was really concerned what was going on with the children in the community. I work at Troy School District also, too, at School 12, and at the alternate school there, dealing with basically a lot of attitudes and behavior and everything. But I was just really concerned that what's really with our kids that what I'm working with basically is we forget the morals of the kids, maybe not getting them at home, but at the same time, that was really my big concern of helping the kids, and also at Albany High School to come in and talk about things of their feelings and everything. But again, I'm just here to give my support. I gave Karen my telephone number, and hope the superintendent would reach out for us. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Abdullah. Mr. Abdul Hamid, did I get that right? Excuse me, Imam. I was so focused on there's that part, I apologize. Imam Zaki Abdul Hamid.
Good evening, Superintendent Adams, Principal Paulino, honorable board members. Good evening. I'm one of the chaplains here in Albany. I've been a teacher for like 35 years in New York City Board of Ed. Before coming up here, I served about 16 years in the maximum security prisons in the state of New York. So what I would like to speak to, the point of the youth in various schools, I like to share with them the great benefits of character development, having the correct attitude in life in preparation for life's challenges, socially, economically, culturally, so forth. I'd like to speak to them about the benefits of being an independent thinker, because we know that one lapse of judgment, one moment of pleasure can lead to a lifetime of misery. And as I speak to the youth, I like to make it interesting. I always talk about myself, the pitfalls that I've gone through, to make them laugh, to make them feel relaxed. Nobody likes a long, stuffy, boring speech, especially these are children. So after they laugh at myself, then we get back down to serious business. And I usually like to let them know that life is not all play, play, play. Even though there's video games everywhere throughout America, you have to know that life is also serious, that there's a balance. After you play, and get to work. Focus on your work. Be serious, because your future depends on it. Finally, the pitfalls of choosing wrong over right, the peer pressure. I think I can bring the true reality of what prison life is about if you make one small mistake, going against your nature. You know it's wrong, but it's, well, I'm with these guys, I'm with these girls, why not? And to let them know that that can lead to a lifetime of degradation and misery. And I like to give detailed experiences that I've seen throughout these max security prisons. So they're not aware that when everyone leaves prison and they turn the lights out, these big, strong men who's supposed to be such bullies in jail, they cry like babies all throughout the prison. Mommy, mommy, mommy. Seriously, I'm serious. And they don't know that. And they don't know the fact that they would come to my office. Imam Zakir, I'm only 18 years old. You mean tell me I did 2 homicides? I'm going to be like 68, 69. I'm going to be your age with your hair receding and graying and everything? I said, yeah. So it's better to let them know before time that this is something for them to really consider. Very lastly, 10 seconds, young girls, save yourselves for the right man. So these are things I'd like to speak about, and if I'm given permission with a couple of others, maybe we can make a difference. This school is doing wonderful. Maybe I wouldn't have to speak here, but other schools
Imam,
I probably
excuse
would.
me, like Mr. Abdullah, if you have a card and you want to just give your contact information to Ms. Bechtel, that would be great, and since the superintendent isn't here. Thank you. Ms. Johnson?
Good evening. My name is Shakira Johnson. I'm a mother of a 5th grader in the district. I'm only I don't know how to present this question, but I would like to, can you hear me now? Okay. I would like more involvement, maybe mandated parent involvement in the school district. So I was thinking maybe we can get the parents on our own board and present our concerns and problems to you guys. So could we trying to get that going, like a board of parents and community advocates?
Thank you. I mean, we don't have discussions back and forth
Okay.
at these, but
So that's-
you can write to the board, and if you have other things that you want to share, please email us about that. If there's something you want to flesh out in more detail about that, and also give your. I guess you can also give your information to Ms. Bechtel, who seems to be the repository for that.
Okay.
With the superintendent not being here, normally what we do is refer people
Okay,
to come in. Her door is always open, and to discuss the issues of parental involvement.
okay, thank you.
Mr. Islam?
Good evening. I retired from the Federal Bureau of Prisons and New York State Department of Corrections. We have a Universal Concepts program at 255 Orange Street. We conduct group mentoring services for the city's recreation center under the ObamasMyBrothersKeeper.com for the last 3 years under our leadership, under our mayor, Sheehan. And our objective primarily is to reach them before they get to in-school suspension. We try to be proactive. And if we can't be proactive, it's best to get them into in-school suspension so they don't wind up in ER, prison, cemetery, Berkshire Farms, Northeast. We have a methodology with our youth where we speak with them, and it's kind of irrefutable what knowledge we share with them. And I'm going to share my knowledge with you right now to substantiate that. In the word learn is the word earn. In the word earn is the word ear. You must give an ear in order to earn how to learn. Imam Zaki just mentioned that they like to play. Play has rules. There's rules for everything that you do. And we usually speak to them as if we're their daddies, their uncles, their big brothers, because we know where their daddies, uncles, and big brothers are. So we're filling in for them to being the extended parent. And to be careful of a moment's pleasure for a possible lifetime of misery. Be careful of being conceptually incarcerated. We were able to keep the person who assassinated Malcolm X safe in the state prison system for 40 years before he got out 4 years ago. No Hollywood, no royalties, nada, nothing. We informed the youth in their language. Their language is word to my mother, fact. In the word mother is the word other. In the word other is the word the. In the word the is the word he. In the word other is the word her. Mother, the other, her, he. She's the boss, whether you like it or not. Her greatest weapon is a two-edged sword. That tongue is a two-edged sword, right? What word is in the word sword? Word. Mothers will get the last word, whether we like it or not. Right, men? All men know that, right? However, most youth, if not all people in general, they want knowledge. In the word knowledge is the word know. In the word know is the word now. Spell now backwards, it's one, W-O-N. In the word one is the word on. You want to be on that ledge. In the word ledge is the word edge. In order to have an edge, to be on that ledge, to know now, to feel like you won, you must accept the word O-N spelled backwards. She says it's no. You're not getting nothing, jack. Law enforcement say it's no, you're going. Mama say curfew, that's it, it's done. But the most important word in the word knowledge is the three-letter word in the center of the word knowledge. You see how they get their attention and they can't refute it? The most important word in the word knowledge is the three-letter word in the word knowledge, and that's O-W-L. We're not mixing up words. We say definition gives direction. Definition gives direction. We inform them that you must understand the 5 Ps. Proper preparation prevents poor performance in everything you do. OWL, that's the kind of knowledge you want, not just basketball, football, and rap. And so when we share this information in the spirit in which we're doing it right now, they're attentive. But the most important thing is that we have gifts for them. We have $2 bills to let them know the first black president in America is on the back of the $2 bill, and it's not Obama. We give them $50. We give them Eisenhowers and bags of candy. If they come for that, good. They're going to listen to what I have to say. And so we want to share with them to help them make better choices. That's the whole goal and objective, to help make them make better choices. So we used to conduct under Mr. Thomas over at Green Tech, when they first opened up their assembly every week. And many of them, when I see them around now, they're telling me about words. Words make people. Man means mind, and crime is a moral problem. And be careful of the influences of the media, World Wide Web. Who makes webs? Who makes webs? Spiders. For what purpose? To catch their suckers. Television. They're feeding you appetites that you can't afford. And I want to appreciate you. Thank you very much. I just want to let you know, I just want to share that with you so you know how we get their attention. And we're looking forward to hopefully you sharing back with whoever's necessary. Superintendent, whoever it may be, we like to conduct in-house group sessions so that we can share information with them so this way they can make better choices, because most importantly, the statistics in the state of New York and throughout the country is most girls that get raped in college are freshmen.
Thank you.
We want to get
Thank
to
you,
them.
Mr. Islam. Appreciate it. Thank you so much. So that concludes, excuse me, that concludes public comment for the evening, and we're moving on to routine consent. May I get a motion, please, to accept routine consent? Ms. Wilson, seconded by Dr. Chator. Any set-asides? Ms. Savage.
I need to set aside letter M.
Any other set-asides? Seeing none, can I get a motion to accept for routine consent all of the items except for M? Ms. Wilson, Dr. Chator seconded. All those in favor? And that is unanimous. May I get a motion, please, to accept M, which is, let me scroll down the title. Apologize. The Lowe's donation to the spa playground. Ms. Savage, seconded by Ms. Wilson. Discussion?
I just wanted to express the district's deep thank you to Lowe's and also to the First Unitarian Universalist Society of Albany, who facilitated this donation. And we thank the Unitarian Society for everything they've done for SPA, and Lowe's in particular for this most recent donation.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of M being accepted, that is unanimous. Thank you very much. That is routine consent. We are now up to what I like to call Miss Savage's category, 6, policy.
So today we are going to act on a policy that we discussed last time, which is the homebound instruction policy. You have before you both the adopted policy, the proposed policy, we have before you both the proposed policy and a red line version versus the sample that comes to us from the New York State School Boards Association. We do not currently have an adopted homebound instruction policy, so this would be a new policy for us. And as we talked about last time, this is not homeschooling. This is for students who are homebound because of some sort of medical condition, and it just sets the policy of the district to provide educational opportunities for those children as well.
You ready for me to move? May I get a motion, please, to adopt policy 4327, homebound instruction? Ms. Smith, seconded by Ms. Roach. All those in favor? And that is done then. That is accepted unanimously. We're up to the budget development for 2018-19. Mr. Hogan, you are on. While Mr. Hogan and Ms. Primero take their seats, I just want to mention that we set, I just want to confirm, we set 40 minutes. Actually, thought we had set longer, but that's okay. So we had set 40 minutes, and we are running through quickly tonight so far. So while I still think we should, and I will go around to each person, obviously we can do like 2 at a time, so it doesn't have to be restricted to 1, or if there's follow-up. And just want to reassure you that we always spend as much time in budget as necessary. So this isn't one of those things where we follow up with questions later on or at the next meeting. Whatever needs to be asked and moved through, we will take care of, because it is the biggest job that the school board does in addition to hiring a superintendent. So that said, I feel like I should have music playing. Are you guys ready? I didn't speak just to fill up the time, but I figured I'd use that. Are you? But if you're ready now, we're ready to proceed.
We are ready. We'll begin by a short presentation. So these are the topics we're going to briefly review this evening. Why is this here? Because the budget process really needs to be in alignment with align our resources with our vision, mission, and goals. And again, I won't read this to you. It's posted in various places and provided here. This is our upcoming schedule for budget discussions. The other thing that occurs is once the board adopts the budget, we actually already have 2 requests already, but we meet with neighborhood associations, PTAs, and various other groups that express an interest in having us speak to them about the budget. So those meetings are all added later on. So what we have here is a base budget this evening. Essentially, what that includes is continuing the existing programs and services, continuing the staffing under the labor contracts, continuing the staff benefits. Also, those are defined in the labor contracts. All of our contractual obligations for things like our bond payments, and to continue operations, keep the buildings heated, etc., and maintained. And then we're also going to talk about some of these mandates that have to be added into the base budget that require additional resources beyond the current levels into the new budget. So the first one is a court liaison position. We have additional 2 new schools we have to cover with our nursing. Again, that's a requirement by the state. That's a 0.4 FTE. We are expecting growth in special education. The kids, we already have them in pre-K, but we know of about 110 kids that are coming in that are going to need additional services. So we obviously have to staff up for that. and this is in addition to the staff that we already have in special education and even in the kindergarten level. Speech therapist along with that incoming pre-K class, and translation services that we're required to do with all of the testing to make testing accommodations for the students that don't have English as their first language. So when you put those things in and essentially roll the budget forward, this shows you that revenues are expected to increase about 2.74%. Expenses are expected to increase about 3.19%. The difference between revenues and expenses is highlighted in red. That's a projected deficit before there's any changes as numbers change through the process and before any decisions are made on a tax levy. There's a lot of things that go into this. If you look at the basically $7.7 million increase, $1 million of that is on the previous slide to accommodate new resources needed to meet mandates. I'll just highlight some of the larger things, so that would explain $1 million of the $7.6 million. Other things that are increasing, but these next few things actually have offsets that'll net out of the budget, so they're going to show up in this big number of increase, but there's going to be some offsetting revenues for things like the charter schools are going to increase $600,000. The community schools funding is going to increase $600,000. Property tax cert is actually going to increase about $500,000. That particular one we can offset through some of our tax reserves available. And bonds are going to increase about $700,000 as well, but again, there's additional state aid coming based on the fact that we have these higher bond payments. So right there, you have about $2.4 million of growth in expenses. However, it's not as bad as it sounds because there are some offsetting revenues for those. Other than that, the larger areas of increase are non-residential place students, $365,000. Our teachers' retirement pension system is going to increase about $1 million. Our health insurance will increase about $2.5 million. So there's literally over 1,000 things that go into these numbers, but conceptually, these were kind of the bigger hits that moved the budget forward and increased the cost. So the next section we just want to talk about are things that staff is recommending that are essential to programming, and you'll see what they are, and also important for the health and safety of the students as well. So the next slide you're going to see is not included here. There are additional things. And then the next meeting we're going to talk about a bunch of other requests that came from the staff. That's how we do the budget process, that are not the academic plan and not on the next slide. And those are the things that we, as cabinet, we spend several weeks prioritizing and filtering through them to bring priorities to the board. So this group of items here are considered to be essential to programming, health, and safety. It's primarily staff. It's about $1.6 million. You have these in front of you, so again, I won't read through these. We certainly are going to have a lot of discussion following this presentation. The other thing that's included in here, there is one line called, on the last line, staff coming off grants. These were vetted in the cabinet meeting, but those, because they weren't, I really didn't want to add 4 or 5 lines here. I wanted to do it in one line. On the bottom, there's a note that says the ones that are recommended essential are the 0.5 literacy coach, 0.6 math coach, 0.2 mentor coordinator, 0.6 college and career readiness coordinator, and a 0.5 data coach. That makes up the second to last number, $225,709. So if the base budget you saw in an earlier slide were modified to include these additional things that are considered to be essential to programming, this is what the budget would look like. And again, there's still a lot of things being considered and looked at that aren't in here. For example, growing the implementation of the academic plan. We're assuming what's been implemented in the academic plan is in this budget that you've seen. But again, that was a multi-year phase-in. So if we want to phase in additional components of the academic plan, that would be in addition to this. And additionally, all of the requests that came from principals and administrators up from the buildings up as things, needs, and wants they've identified, we have to filter all of that, and we should be able to give you that information prioritized in the next meeting. The other thing that we factored in, even in the base budget, were areas of savings. These have all been netted out, but we will net about $675,000 in savings through retirements, and then the newer people come in at lesser salaries. So there's a net gain there. The other area that we were able to pick up $515,000 of savings was in the special ed area. They have less BOCE outplacements. We're noticing this year it's trending. We've talked to the department. It'll probably be trend less next year as well. So we're able to take a little over $500,000 out of special ed. But keep in mind, I told you earlier, special ed needs several teachers and several TAs. So again, this will help offset the growth of the budget by having a savings in special ed in a different area. It won't offset all of it, but it'll help. It'll put $500,000 towards the increase. As we go through the budget process, state aid typically is not finalized until late March. We always hope when the Assembly and the Senate do their own separate budget projections, separate from the governor, that they agree on that there is more money. If they do that, typically they come out and provide additional state aid for school districts. So we have to hope that that works out this year and that they actually can identify additional funding and additional resources at the state level. The health insurance percent increases, we have thrown a projection in here. We will be working closely, typically around mid-February. We want to capture the most recent data, which is the month of January. So later in February, we will fine-tune a final projection on the increase in health insurance cost and plug that into the budget. We also have 2 unsettled labor contracts that we're in negotiations with, so we continue those discussions and negotiations. If those become settled before the board adopts in April, we will, those obviously we would know exactly what those numbers and put them in. Otherwise, we have to have some contingency in there for that. The tax cap will be computed. That there's several factors that go into that computation. There's 2 everybody knows about, 2% or consumer price index, whatever is less. But there's about 6 or 8 other variables that go into that computation. So it never ends up being 2% or CPI. It's always something different, sometimes higher, sometimes lower. So we'll work through that later in the budget process. And then the last thing the board typically does is set the tax levy as they're adopting the budget. And again, this is usually early April. Throughout the process, we continue, actually it's my next steps, to continually review the budget, look at projections, use new information that comes in that makes changes to the budget. The staff will be finalizing, that's now that we've got a base budget out there, we're actually working ahead on finalizing the academic plan and then all the other priorities brought forward from all the other administrators. We're also going to, as I said, across the board, incorporate new information as it comes available throughout the next several weeks. We'll continue reviewing our projections, our budget estimates and assumptions. We'll respond to the board questions. We'll take the feedback from the board and the community and staff as we go through the process. We'll continue the lobbying efforts and prepare for the next release of the second draft budget. So with that, I will turn it back over to an officer.
Mrs. Adler asked me to take over for her for a moment. Looking for eyes. Does anybody have a question they want to start with? Ms. Roach, do you have a question?
Not really. I just wanted to thank you for putting that together and say I think we're, so much is still up in the air at this point, but I think we're off to a fine start.
Ms. Wilson, do you have a question?
Thank you. It's not a question, more so a comment about that the proposed budget initially from the governor did make allocations for Albany, so we hope the state aid will come through and have the similar sort of what I would say comparability, so to speak. So we can only hope, and we just have to stay tuned and look forward to that.
Dr. Chatar, do you have a question?
Yeah, this is a season to burn incense sticks and start praying. We hope the state would, throw some more money our way because we definitely need funds. I'm looking at the other documents that are posted on PubDocs with all the expenditures and revenues. One of the things that I see we are cutting like 2/3 is transportation bus aids. With all the issues that we've been having with transportation, can we actually afford to not have bus aids? Or do we have a different plan in mind?
When we originally did this, wow, that's not good. I won't touch it. Maybe that'll help. Maybe I'll stand back about 10 feet. When we originally prepared the budget last year, we had allocated, and I'm pulling this from a nanosecond a year ago, let's say 15 bus aids. I think it was like 150,000, I think, right, in here. Those were set up as a contingency that in the case we were changing bus companies, there were uncertainties, implementing a new system. We have staffed as obviously all of the mandated, and whenever there's special education students on any buses that require aids, obviously we do that. These are contingencies above that. I'm sure if you ask staff and parents, board member, anybody, they would like more aids. We can do more aids. I think that's part of the discussion of all of so certainly we could restore some of that if the board wanted to. It's going to come down to when we were trying to get to a base budget, looking at trends of where we were spending money, where we weren't, and currently we're not spending all of that money. So certainly as we discuss all the priorities that can be brought up, and in fact I can list it if you'd like as in the listing of the priorities coming forward.
More questions? Another one I had, actually a couple more questions. There is a line item for state aid consultant fees, and that fee goes up 330%. I just want to know what this person does and what are they doing this year that's different from what they did last year.
The heading itself probably should not exactly say state aid, so we're going to correct that in the next version. It's special ed consultant services. Okay. So the figure that was in there for the 17-18 budget was Management Advisory Group, who was helping us with our Medicaid services. We have since hired somebody and brought that in-house, so we no longer need to outsource that. But what is now in that line and not showing for the 17-18 budget, but in there for the 18-19 is the IEP translators. Because we need that for IEP translation. So that is, we are expecting to spend about that in the 17-18 year, and we just wanted to have it in the 18-19 budget.
Great, thank you for that explanation.
And I will add, there are a lot of questions we have from the board that came, and those should be able to be released either tomorrow or Monday. So a lot of those questions will be brought to you.
Ms. Lang.
One of the things that I would like to have that I think that we already have and it doesn't have to be discussed now is the budget of each building as the principals go through what their needs were. The items that were not included in the base budget, there's a few that are building specific, but most of them are more global. So that is one of my comments. And the second, the flying classroom with the new program, is that going to include more schools that will be participating in that program, or only the current schools that have that program?
What we did at this time is roll the current cost of the program now forward. If they're, certainly that's just like the transportation aid. If the board wants us to certainly start listing these as additional potential priorities, we we certainly can do that. But currently, we just rolled forward the existing program as it is.
Ms. Roach?
I'm good for now, thanks.
Ms. Smith? Ms. Abbott?
In the presentation, you talked about the number of special ed teachers you will need to add for incoming kindergartners. I don't remember hearing about that before, and I'm wondering if we did something different with screening or evaluation this year, that we know that now for next year, because I don't remember having this conversation before, and it seems like optimistically we might be getting help to kids earlier because of that.
These are kids currently in pre-K. So why there seems to be, because we've always gotten some pre-K kids with special needs coming into kindergarten, obviously. That's a question I would have to refer out to special ed. If a cabinet member's comfortable, they could respond to it now, or we could just come back.
I can't give you a direct comparison from this year to previous years, but it is significantly different, the number of students who are in the referral process for pre-K. And so special ed is anticipating classroom spaces for a significant number of pre-K students who didn't enter pre-K with special education services, but will exit pre-K with special education services.
So not now, I understand we need to ask for more information on special ed, but I'd like to understand what the hypothesis is about why that is. Is it because we're looking harder, or is it because there's something unique about this cohort, or is this going to be a trend from now going forward that we're going to be, having a substantial increase in special ed for our kindergarten years? Because it's a fairly substantial amount of staff that we're talking about adding. My second question is a much more global question, which has to do with the process, and I apologize for not asking about this during the calendar setting phase, but last year when we set the tax rate, we had a rather unpleasant surprise about the distribution of assessed values in the city of Albany, which resulted in what was a zero tax levy becoming a tax decrease for business owners, which they were thrilled about, but a tax increase for homeowners, which they were not thrilled about. And I'm wondering if it would be possible for you to consult with the assessor and get a preliminary sense of how that might play out. I know we will never know for sure, but a lot of changes have been being made in the assessed roles in the city of Albany, and I would like to try and get a preview. If you just added up whatever they've got in their database right now, what would happen next year in August? And I realize that I would not be asking you to commit to that, but to have a sense of what direction we're going in, and I'd like to start talking about that now, how we might build that into our process.
Okay. And I do notice, because I look at these things, last year there was a reduction for the commercial, but the year before it might have went the exact opposite way. So it comes and goes, there's ebbs and flows, and there's always shifts, but certainly
yes,
we
but
can do
absolutely,
what
we
you're asking.
absolutely understand that. And one year we did get a tax decrease when we had a zero, and the homeowners got a decrease, absolutely.
Right.
But I'd like to just know about that in advance, not when it's sort of too late to affect the decision-making of the board.
Okay, we will certainly reach out to the city this week or next week and see what we can get.
So I have a special ed question also, kind of to piggyback on what Ann said, and I'm not sure that, and I don't know if you know the answers and if it's something we can find out about. So this is less about the money that we have to spend and more about the ongoing issue about classification. So I understand if we have young children coming into the system or in the system who may have certain needs that require, and I'm using my words carefully, right? Who may require a higher level of services or greater attention. My concern is, are what we're looking at in terms of the assumption about additional children with special ed needs, which then drives the additional teachers, TAs, and therapists, are we finding out that, or is what we're being told that there are children now who are preschoolers who have now been classified as special ed? I mean, I'm just trying to understand, because here we are with this. Is that where?
So you always have preschoolers who have
Right.
early intervention services and who enter pre-K. So we have pre-K classrooms
Right.
that are co-teach or children who go to
Right.
other district placements for pre-kindergarten for special education services. What's unique about this year is our early childhood CSE chair has never seen the volume of referrals that she's seen this year. So we got a panicked email about 3 months ago, like, I'm at 110 referrals, and I'm concerned because, you know, reviewing the documentation I have to date, these look like legitimate referrals that may result in placements for students. And as Lori whispered to me, it's a national trend for a particular diagnosis that I, you know, won't go into at this point in time. So it's not that we don't have it, it's just we've never seen this volume before, and so we're trying to plan and prepare for that as we enter into next year's budget.
Two things. So one is the referral coming from parents, or is it coming more from staff?
Both.
Equally, you know, it's like not a big difference between the two. And then the other is that you say it's a national trend. So is this a new category of, you said the diagnosis that you're not going to go into, is this a new category? It's not. All right. Well, maybe then in an exec we can find out what that is. But all right, that helps a little bit. Thank you. Thank you. And again, Ms. Wilson.
I was all set with my individual budget questions at this time, but I had another question, just shifting the focus to maybe the public-facing aspects of the forum. Are you doing any additional efforts to promote them or maybe record them so they can be observed at a later time?
That's actually a good idea. We should probably do that for the January. The January, we do a 2-part workshop that is kind of like Public School Finance 101. We should just videotape that and make that available. One night there was a basketball game and which kind of created havoc with parking. And the second night I think there were some weather issues. So January's a rough month, but I think that's a very good idea. That way it's just out there.
Dr. Chatur? Ms. Lang? Ms. Roach? Ms. Smith? Ms. Savage? Thank you so much. Thank you, Stephanie. Thank you, Bill. Very much appreciated. And as the time goes on, we know the questions become more plentiful and more in depth. So thank you for the first go round on this.
Okay, thank you.
And I think I have to check, but I think we're up to grade configuration. We are. Mr. Peckham, thank you so much for being here. I think you must be in the back behind someone. We're up to grade configuration. If you want to join Mr. Hogan. So as Rich Peckham from CS Arch is joining Mr. Hogan, I will just intro for the board the nature of tonight's focus. And as always, it's always a recommendation I make because it's about the extent of it. But tonight's focus really, and the reason why Mr. Peckham is here, is the feasibility study issue. So we are not really focusing tonight on which of the various options are ones that you want to make a determination on. The focus is which of the options are ones that you consider serious ones for consideration for you. And in order to be able to, sort of like a next level, and in order to then make a determination about those that have been narrowed down in your mind as options, we would be putting those out for the feasibility study done by CS Arch so that then the numbers would come back and we would have a greater understanding of all of the costs associated with that. And those are costs not just in that option itself, but then what we call the effects of that option. So if one of the options involved North Albany no longer being used for the purpose for which it is now used, then once that use changed, where would the Albany International School go? So that is what the feasibility study is, and that's where we are. So rather than sitting and discussing, I like this, I like that, or these are the pros and cons, I'm going to just ask that we at least start to have the discussion about the feasibility study, the costs attendant to it, and if everyone is pretty sure about whether there's 2 options they like or 3 options they like enough to move forward, then that's pretty much what we're trying to decide now, because it's an 8-week turnaround. The other topic on also is if you have any questions about the demographic study. We did ask, and Mr. Hogan explained the number of years ago that the demographic study was done. And while it is not that many years ago, there's a belief, obviously, from staff that a more current one would be necessary at this juncture to sort of run in tandem, so that when we make a decision on the options for middle school, we actually have numbers that are real, even though based on some assumptions, but real for us to make those decisions on. And then, as you noticed through the paperwork, at the same time that the studies would be going forward to take us to the next more discrete level of having this conversation on grade configuration, staff would be working on some of the other issues that have been identified that factor into people's decision as to which they think would be best for the district as a whole. So with that introduction, is there a presentation, or are we just going to go to discussion? What is going on with this?
I don't know. I hope I don't get electrocuted. We did pay our workers' comp bill, so, you know. Yeah.
So, Bill, I'm not suggesting you need a presentation. I
Right.
just know we had the study. I didn't know if there was anything else you or Mr. Peckham wanted to discuss.
I just wanted to just give you one quick update. I did actually touch base with the demographic company today for an estimate, and it's actually going to be, it would be like 15,000. So I just wanted to give you that piece.
And it is the opinion of staff, I say it's your opinion or opinion of staff, that moving forward, we need an updated demographic study?
Well, what we don't have, there's 2 or 3 years of kids that are actually weren't born when the last one was done. So you're going to pick up 2 or 3 years of live births in your projections. It's a lot easier to count kids when they're born and you know they're here, you can project. So the original thing actually, you know, you're dealing with about 5 years of unborn kids. So what this would give you is 2 or 3 years of capturing live births, which would, if nothing else, it would at least confirm the prior projections that we have with 2 or 3 years of more data. And that's just an option that we can pursue. It was just a suggestion.
So, well, I'm going to suggest that sounded yes-like in nature. And you know how much, Rich, that I love yeses and nos to answer, you know, to question the answers to questions. So that said, we'll start from this side now. Ms. Roach.
Yes, I think updating the demographic study is helpful to give us the numbers of, you know, who are the actual kids in our neighborhoods.
So that's on the demographics. Do you want to weigh in any way right now on, because we're talking feasibility study as well, and we certainly, the feasibility study base is for 2, and then there's a reduced to add on a third option. Do you have yet an idea, you can always pass and wait, as to which of the options you want to see the feasibility study done? And I think we're using, I'm going to ask Ms. Savage, can you remind us, because of, let's see, I think here, do they have we're talking, what are they are not given numbers yet.
The papers in front of you, I think if Paula printed the one, yes, they do have scenario 3. Did you print 1, 5, 2?
I just wanted you to remind us the numbers we're talking
So
about.
the numbers I have been using, which I'm open to any suggestions, but I have been settling in on scenarios 3, 4, and 5 in terms of our numbering of what the scenarios are. Those were the scenarios
from
that
the early
grade
January.
configuration
Yes.
Defined in May of last year. They had 5 scenarios, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. They presented 2 of those to the board, plus there was one other one that we raised last time, which would be 3, 4, and 5.
We're
Is that you?
14th.
Right.
It's on the December 14th.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where, if I remember, scenario 1 was status
Oh,
quo and therefore not anything.
Right.
Oh, okay.
Correct.
Right?
Yes.
So and we heard something kind of off the wall, but interesting at facilities the other night about, you know, even considering other options beyond those. Who knows?
Okay, so if we can focus on,
But I'll focus.
If we-
I think 3, 4, and 5 would be a good place to start. and
so
narrow it
you
down.
want to do the feasibility study on all 3?
I don't know. I was
Okay.
just saying.
Okay,
Def-
so,
definitely on 3. That I can say I would be in support of that.
okay. Ms. Lang? I'm just doing a sheet here, a tally here.
I'd like to do the feasibility on the North Albany being the middle school. That was number.
So scenario 4 is, scenario 5, I think is the one you're talking about, which is Myers, Hackett, Albany High, and Arbor Hill and North Albany. Is that the one you're talking about?
Yes.
Or are you talking about scenario 4, which is Hackett, Myers, Edmund O'Neill, and Arbor Hill? No.
Okay.
Not Arbor Hill.
I'm gonna just because it gets very confusing. Here's what we're going to do. I'm gonna ask Tabitha to just list for us the schools for 3, the schools for 4, because I know she pulled it up, and the schools for 5. So we all are starting on the same place as to what each one is of.
Okay, scenario 3, which is the one that I would like to submit. Scenario 3 consists of 4 middle schools: Myers, Hackett, 50 North Lark, and North Albany.
Okay, so that's Myers, Hackett, Edmund O'Neill, and North Albany. Could you tell us what number 4 is, scenario 4?
4 middle schools: Myers, Hackett, 50 North Lark, and Arbor Hill.
And then I'm assuming therefore that number 5 is going to be Myers, Hackett, North Albany, and Arbor Hill.
Correct.
All right, so
Wait, can you say 5 again?
I'm going to say, I'll just repeat it next, I wrote it down. So scenario number 3, and I apologize to anybody in the audience, because we're working off of 3, 4, and 5, and we don't want to, we've thought of renaming them. We thought of then calling them new letters, but we thought that would make everybody's head spin. So, number 3, what has been referred to as number 3 is Myers Middle School, Hackett Middle School, the Edmund J. O'Neill Middle School of Excellence, and the North Albany Academy. Scenario 4, what we'll refer to as 4, is Myers Middle School, Hackett Middle School, the Edmund J. O'Neill Middle School of Excellence, and Arbor Hill Elementary School, becoming obviously Arbor Hill Middle School, or whatever it gets called. Scenario 5 is Myers, Hackett, North Albany Academy, and Arbor Hill. Sure.
Before we go on further, I do think we should also talk about the number of students in each school, because scenario 3 and 5, as they came out of grade configuration, anticipated North Albany as being quite small. Scenario 3 had North Albany at 375. Scenario 5 had it at 350. I believe that the staff guidance has been, and that most of us, and maybe we could at least agree on this piece, has been that we would be looking for 4 middle schools, roughly 650, 500, 500, if it can be done without an excessive amount of money to cause that to happen.
I appreciate your pointing that out, and that's one of the underpinnings for the feasibility study, because the board, through its discussions, has seemed to be pretty in agreement that it doesn't want large disparities in the middle schools. Therefore, one would glean from that would be a factor the board would consider in making its ultimate decision. In other words, if we send out for feasibility study and hypothetically it came back that one of those scenarios that we had wanted to be 650, 655, and 5, we are told that's not possible. Here's all the reasons. You've convinced us, because you know we're not easy. And then we're told, no, it has to be 350, and we have this huge disparity. The board could then change its mind. So that is the reason for the feasibility study, and that is the reason, as I think it's good that Ms. Savage points that out, because there was a desire, just like we don't want, a good school and a bad school. We don't want to have schools that have, as we know, equitable issues in terms of what can be provided to students down the road. Someone will say, well, it's a smaller school, we really can't provide that. You avoid that if you start out with the premise that the board's trying to get to even, as close as it can to having even populations. So now, against that framework of what 3, 4, and 5 are, we're going to go back to where we were. So I'm going to start just going back to Ms. Wilson. When you say you want to look at 3, and obviously then we would be working out the details, are there any other ones that and by the way, the CSRH feasibility study didn't give us a price for one, so in a sense you get to pick another one anyway if you only really feel 100% about one number to begin with. So you can think about it, but I just want to throw that out to you, that if you're wedded to one number, the feasibility study is going to still do a comparative review of at least a second. I know some people on the board want 3, and that's good too. There's no good or bad on this. It's just I want you to consider that the study at a minimum is going to be looking at 2 scenarios. Dr. Chator, where are you at?
Still thinking.
Okay, good. Ms. Lang?
Number 3, which is Myers Hackett, O'Neill, and North Albany with the equity numbers available, is a feasibility I'd like to see.
Okay, so again, I'm going to just repeat what I mentioned to Ms. Wilson because I just want to make sure everybody's clear. The smallest number of schools that will be part of the feasibility study will be 2. So you get to choose from another column. When we go around, yes, just want to remind, good. Ms. Roach.
Now that I'm looking at all 3 options, I think I definitely would like to see feasibility of all 3, just because using Arbor Hill as a middle school seemed like a really good idea to me. And now that we've heard some, and we've heard some things from the community that suggest it might not be. So I think all 3 of these scenarios have pros and cons, and I'd really like each. I think it makes sense at this point to flesh each of them out as thoroughly as possible before we go forward.
Ms. Smith.
Yes, I would agree with Ms. Roach that I would like to see a feasibility study involving all 3. My preference, however, is for the Myers, Hackett, North Albany, and Arbor Hill. But is that the one? Yeah, the last, number 5. There we go. And I did have another question. And I remember the numbers, one scenario involving the numbers where North Albany was smaller at the 3-something. And I wondered this, in the feasibility study, we can or we are not going to look at the impact on the Albany International Center?
No. What I explained is that
Okay, I'm sorry, I was
that's okay.
racking
So
my brain on this.
no. It's not just what I explained. It was the documentation that went out. So the feasibility study provides us, which has been made public, provides us with a base figure for doing the study and what it entails for a minimum of 2 schools. Then for a smaller amount, a third scenario would actually be added in if a majority of the board wanted that reviewed. Then because of what, I want to get a different language for cascading effects, although that could be looked at poetic and beautiful, not as in something bad. I don't want it to sound pejorative, but the impacts, the rolling impacts that occur, like Albany International, is something that would be looked at as well, but because it's not project-based, it will be done at an hourly rate. And I know that there are additional questions when we go around to get some idea of what that means, because as a board, we always like to know, we trust you, but we always want to know beforehand what the parameters are, what you think the range would be, given that you know our district this well. Really, the question becomes, there's the international school, there's the kitchen. You probably know better than the board sometimes what the cascading effects might be depending on the scenario. So for us, it would be very helpful if we could get a sense of what you think the range of cost are going to be to do this, and then be able to have all the information we need so we know what the impacts are on our other population. So.
Could I just add? This is just a comment, and I'm very concerned about the other options that involve Edmund J. O'Neill, since we just spent money on redoing that school. So, but again, I would include it in this study. And then the other, as it is, with the 3 options, it's already.
Right. So it's only 2 of the options.
2 of the options.
It's 3 and 4.
I just
Keep it
meant that
intact.
I
It's
just
only
meant
5 that's changing it.
It's included here, so I was just commenting that was a concern, and I'm glad the feasibility study.
No. The
Okay.
option, let me just make sure that we're on the same page.
All right.
Options 3 and 4 both have as one of the 4
That's right.
schools, Edmund J. O'Neill Middle School of Excellence, which means it will remain if scenario 3 or 4 are chosen,
as the middle.
it remains one of the names of the schools we used were not the ones that were going to be impacted. in a sense,
Got
they
it.
are. We named those as the ones that would become the four middle schools.
I'm sorry, so they stay the same.
They
Got
stay
it.
the same. So Myers, Hackett, Edmond O'Neill, and then North Albany becomes a middle school in 3. In 4, it's Myers, Hackett, Edmond O'Neill, and Arbor Hill becomes the middle school. And in number 5, it's the only one Edmond O'Neill does not stay in place as a middle school. That becomes Myers, Hackett, North Albany, and Arbor Hill.
Okay, so then I'm not as satisfied as I thought. But anyway, I'm happy with.
I thought you'd be more satisfied.
Kind of. Okay. I mean, this is fine. But I think here's my other question, and I don't know whether this is normally done at this stage, and maybe I don't really care what's normally. But I am still a little fuzzy on communications with parents, and I wondered during a feasibility study like this, would there be some consideration or some consideration of engaging community in this discussion? And it may not be that it's appropriate at this time, I don't know, but I just feel as if I would like to get a better sense of the pulse.
So I think that's something that we as a board would discuss right now with you. No, I mean,
Yeah.
as opposed to having the architect or Mr.
Well,
Hogan.
and I
discuss-
actually
no.
did mean to direct it towards us.
So I'm going to ask if anybody else wants to weigh in before I talk too much.
Go for it.
So I think engaging with communities is critical. Everybody needs to understand that this decision is being made. I don't, however, think it's appropriate time to start asking people for their opinions about which is the preferred alternative, because we don't have enough information for people to make a judgment on, just like we can't make that decision without the feasibility. But I do think it's appropriate, as we did in the November newsletter, which went to every household in the city, to make sure that people know the decision's being made. And I do think once the superintendent is back, that we could talk with her about ways that could be conveyed more specifically to those communities that are more likely to be impacted by this, so that they could be listening to the conversation and present, if not personally in the board meetings, then by audio or looking at the notes, or sending reports out about what the status of the discussion is. I think that would be of value.
I just don't want it to get lost and forgotten.
I agree. I just feel like the superintendent really is the one who we should be having that conversation with, and she's not here.
That's fair.
Ms. Wilson.
On that topic, I think we definitely have to do our due diligence. And although this began prior to my tenure, and there was a lot of efforts made to make people aware, and there was even a whole great configuration panel, there still can be more efforts made to make sure everybody's abreast and up to speed where we are in the discussion. So I think we can never do too much in that realm.
And to that end, I think that once the board makes a decision about the feasibility study and which options are going to be looked at as part of the feasibility study, as well as the other 2 things that we'd be doing, demographics and all that, I think that's where the superintendent, in conjunction with the communications department, would put out, not just for the district, but make sure it goes out to any of the schools that are on the list particularly as well. So what they know is feasibility study, this is what that means. Again, no decision being made. Right now we're looking at, is it even feasible, is it even possible logistically to create a middle school? And then if the answer comes back no, or yes, then everybody gets advised. And you're right, we have done a lot of outreach, and we will continue. And once this board makes a decision and the contract is signed or put together, we will let everybody know what the study is going to entail and the impacts. Oh, so I think we're up to, so Vicki, you are on all 3, yes?
Yes, and I'm
Okay.
here now. I
Okay.
apologize.
Well, that's okay.
I'm
It's
reading this in the wrong way, so I'm good.
no. Ms. Savage.
So I'm still waiting. I need the answer to my question, which Mr. Peckham is going to answer in a minute, about what the potential costs are of the cascading, of evaluating the feasibility of the cascading effects. But based on the preliminary numbers we have, the investment in doing a feasibility study of the 3rd option is such a microscopic amount compared to actually building a school that it makes no sense at all to me to not study the 3rd option, because if that were to be the best option and we discounted it to save a few $1,000s in a project cost that's going to be in the millions, that would just be penny wise and pound foolish in my mind. So I am absolutely in favor of investigating all three, unless Mr. Peckham says, in fact, the cascading effects are going to cost a substantial amount more than I thought it was going to cost.
So first, I'll say what she said, so that's what I think. And then when you say the cascading effects, so you're talking about the cost of having the cascading effects be investigated?
Yes.
Or the, okay.
Because we have we have an amount certain for evaluating the specific feasibility of the specific middle schools, and then we have an hourly rate for the cascading effects. And I have no sense of how many hours those things are going to take, so those numbers are not meaningful to me yet, but they're about to me, I can tell.
And then the other thing to factor in, because I'm just going to go around one more time to see whether we're at 2 or 3, although right now we have a majority because it's Ellen, Ann, Sue, Jen, and Vicky for 3. For 3 schools, it's Vicky, Sue, Ann, and Ellen, and I will get everybody else's weighing in just so we know. But I do think that the problem also is not just the cascading effects cost, but whether or not, well, I'm sorry, I'll just save that. It's getting ourselves. Ms. Wilson, do you have a second school or a third school position?
I would say the third school position, but also I just wanted to go back to the North Albany. I remember at a prior discussion we discussed that they already used that pool in the adjoining building, and we were going to entertain whether we could absorb the pool or something of that nature. Is that still possible?
So part of the feasibility study will entail looking at the space that is adjoining North Albany, which part of is the Albany Public Library and part is the Y. And that's just a big piece that we just would have no way of figuring out right now where those entities are at in the sense of what they want to do with their property and what they're willing to do. Dr. Tutor.
I want to echo on what Vicky said and the fact that we spent all this money building Edmund O'Neill to make it into a middle school. So changing it back to an elementary school is not what I'm a favor of, unless somebody can show me a better reason as to why another location would fit better. I have no problems doing a feasibility study with 3 schools because, again, penny wise, pound foolish, and makes sense to look at all the options before we start spending on the big ticket item. It's only a few.
And Ms. Roach, we're all set, right? So everybody's spoken, and now we'll turn it back over to you. And the one thing I'll say is I think what everybody heard tonight was that we definitely want to know the feasibility. It is the smart thing and the right thing to do for purposes of the job that we have as school board members in terms of our fiduciary duty, in terms of stewards of the funding, and also what's best for the students. It sounds like there is, the board isn't really floundering. The board has a sense of the issues and the concerns. Edmund O'Neill created middle school taxpayer money, funding already for that, and there's some concerns about using that and changing that around, and a couple of board members have spoken to that. And then the other is, of course, the population and trying to get as close to some sort of even population, because we know what happens when it's not. And then I think the third issue was which hasn't been brought up, which is also location, and that's something that no one's really talked about per se, and I went back over some of the stuff on board docs, as there's been talk sometimes about when certain schools are too close to, not usually our elementaries, but when we have the middle school, since we only have one high school, that's not an issue, but when schools let out and the flow of traffic, and we've had that issue before. And so I'm going to segue into your feasibility study. Is that something that will be part of your approach to take a look at? In other words, Tabitha talked about the proximity of O'Neill and Arbor Hill in a way that had not yet been discussed when we met last time. And that is a closer, those schools are closer than even North Albany and Arbor Hill are. And there's always been discussions about what happens if you let every middle school out at the same time in our city. And that's true for any place. I don't think it's just Albany. You have just thousands of students being let out at once, and they're a few blocks apart. So I wonder if that's something that's going to be discussed as well, sort of the flow, the sort of of where the buildings are located and what their usages are for when you do the study?
Well, one of those pieces that'll tie into that obviously is traffic circulation around the schools and how efficient that is. And ultimately, in the end, some of that will be impacted by how you populate the schools and how many of them are walkers versus how many of them get transportation also. Because if half a school is going to get on CDTA buses to go home, it's a different scenario than if they're all walking to their neighborhood too. So.
All right, great. Well, thank you. So now I'm going to turn it back over to you for the important issue of the hourly rate work.
Okay. I've looked at that, and just so everybody's aware of the things that we're aware of right now that very well could be impacted by this are obviously the International Center, the production kitchen that's at Arbor Hill, plus there's also the food service offices for the whole district that are at Arbor Hill. There's the science kit storage and distribution that's at Arbor Hill right now. There's central copy for the district that's at Arbor Hill. There's a lot of district-wide maintenance material storage at Arbor Hill right now. And then one of the scenarios that's even been kicked around with Bill and administration is that Harriet Gibbons might become a building that has to absorb some of this stuff. And if that happens, then there could be a ripple effect of what do you do with some of the functions the district currently has at Harriet Gibbons. So at least 6 different scenarios or different options that we have right now. So when I kind of projected out how many hours I think it's going to take to go investigate each one, and there'll be different options of how we can accommodate each of these, we're looking at probably $15,000 to $20,000 additional to be able to look at these 6 or 7 different cascading effect pieces of the project.
Ms. Wilson? Oh, Dr. Chator.
Good, you raised your hand before. The Sunshine School, right? Can it be used for the storage part?
That may be one of the buildings that gets involved in part of the solution. That could be storage. It could be potential
But you
central
don't have
copy.
personnel, but it's just.
But again, it's a matter of looking at that and getting an initial projection on what's going to cost to be able to do some work in that building and be able to reopen it for functional use.
Ms. Lang?
And also in this, in all of these, there'd be the elementaries would have to expand or absorb something. So Arbor Hill with the storage units would obviously have to accommodate North Albany. So that feasibility study would be part of that to make it a larger elementary. And
Ms. Roach?
I just wanted to agree with what's been said.
Ms. Smith? Yeah, it's hard to. This is at least we figured out the numbers tonight, and everything else is swirling. Ms. Savage.
2 things. One, I just want to restate what Jen just said because I'm sure we were thinking the same thing. Clearly, each feasibility study would include the cost for the relocation of the elementary students who would be displaced. That would be part of each option, right? That's not an extra. And then secondly, the 15 to 20 additional, the number of cascading effects that would have to be studied, it's the Arbor Hill question is the primary question. If Arbor Hill is studied, all of these things happen, right? It's 2 out of our 3. There's no scenario under which we don't study these because Arbor Hill comes into play in 2 out of the 3 scenarios. So we said we were going to study at least 2. So there's no way to pick 2 that don't involve Arbor Hill, right? Because there's only 3 and 2, right? So we're always going to be studying these ripple effects that come from this converting Arbor Hill to a school. So whether we choose 2 or 3, it doesn't affect that 15 to 20, except maybe around the edges a little bit. But the vast bulk of it comes from investigating what we do with the other things that are currently at Arbor Hill.
And just
right?
to be clear, not because I think dozens and dozens of people listen to the minutes, to the recorded stuff, a few people do, is that when we say that Arbor Hill is going to be affected with any scenario, it's affected differently in 2 of them versus the 1. So its effect in number 3 is only that it stays in elementary school, and I'm saying this to the extent anybody listens, and not because you aren't clear.
Oh, no, but I'm not sure you understood what I was saying, which was that we're studying 2 schools at the minimum, we're going to do two.
Oh, no, I just want to clarify
Yeah.
for purposes of someone listening. So Arbor Hill gets affected in scenarios 4 and 5 in that it wouldn't be an elementary school anymore. But in number 3, it stays intact as it's not a criticism, just laying it out. It stays as an elementary school, it just gets more students. And I just want when someone listening, I don't want ever there to be a takeaway that no matter which of the scenarios we have, that they all transition Arbor Hill into a middle school. And that's not what Ms. Savage said. It's not what was said. It was just that it's confusing even to some of us sitting here, the numbers and the studies. So I want when someone listens to it to sort of sum up at the end that we still have scenario 3, which does not change the constitution of the Arbor Hill School.
So,
Ms. Smith.
Mr. Peckham, so you agree with what Ms. Savage said? Because then that means the cost. So if all of what we're doing at Arbor Hill it's really not cascading, meaning a separate cost, it's already included in...
Let me try and say it a different way.
Okay, but is that what you're getting at?
Sort of.
Okay.
Here's what I'm getting at. Right now, we're deciding between studying 2 schools or studying 3 schools. Okay, so we're all right. So if we're studying all 3 of those, we need to know the cascading effects. So we can't do. This is actually slightly different what I said before. We can't do the study in a meaningful way unless we study the whole impact. There would be no point, in my opinion, of only investigating the impact on the middle and elementary schools and then just hoping that we had found a place for the commercial kitchen and the storage. So that is, in fact, part and parcel of what we have to do, in my opinion, if we're going to bother doing a feasibility study. But it's not quite what I was saying before, which I won't go into again.
So the reason I said that we're doing all 3 schools is because every board member in the end, after we went around a second or third time, all said, well, let's do. So we're on. So I believe that that's what we had. Possibly, I had Tabitha down for, I'm sorry, Ms. Smith?
I guess I just want to still come back to the cost. Because, Mr. Berkham, you said there would be an additional 15 to 20. But if we're already looking at, I mean, is that cost reduced since we already are going to be looking at, say, Arbor Hill in 2 of the 3 situations? No,
I mean,
okay.
Yeah, because the costs are associated with what we're looking at in the feasibility study is how we convert Arbor Hill to whatever function it's going to be, whether it's going to be a middle school, whether it's going to be a larger elementary school, and the other buildings in that scenario. When we get into these cascading effects, now we're looking at probably how we accommodate those functions and potentially 2 or 3 other buildings that the district already owns. So now there's essentially a separate feasibility study of all those different things, because there may be different options. You know, as was mentioned, Sunshine may come into play, a Brooklyn may come into play, Harriet Gibbons may come into play, because they're all buildings that have the potential to be used for different functions they're currently being used for.
So you're going to laugh when I phrase it this way, but so what can we get for 10,000?
What can you get for 10,000? Well, how about if I phrase it this way? What if we just do the whole thing for 40 and not go with the hourly? We'll just study all the cascading effects and the 3 scenarios.
And what was the 1 for 2 again? I feel like I'm in like in the
Well,
I feel like I'm in a shuk in the Middle East right now.
So basically, it's 19.5 was for 2, another 8 for the third.
That's
so we're
27.
27.5. So basically 12.5 to do all the cascading effects.
I can go with that. So let me poll my colleagues on the board. So basically, for an additional, we are capping. Here's what we're doing. I'll break it out this way. Mr. Peckham is allowing us to cap at 12.5 rather than 15 to 20 or even no cap. The cascading effects to get what we would now be saying is a comprehensive view of the 3 options and the impacts that those would all have on the usages that are there now, and then where they would have to be moved to in order for us to continue having, you know, the use and space that we need to have that ongoing.
I just wanted, actually, I was actually proposing something slightly different than that instead of capping.
I'm sure if it's better, then
Well,
that's.
instead of capping it at 12.5, just fixing it at $40,000 due to the whole thing.
Oh, that's what I meant. I was sort of, but I understand
Yeah,
that. I
okay.
was just explaining that the good deal on that, the bargain on that, I don't want to highlight that too much, you'll change your mind. But that the highlight of that is that originally you said 15 to 20, and when I said, what can we get for 10, then basically what we're doing is we're saying what was going to be 15 or 20 as an estimate, which you could come back when someone's an hourly rate, somebody can come back and say, I'm sorry, but we wound up spending 23 on it. Now we're basically, when you add up the numbers, it's 12.5, but you're going to take care of it all. So if I can get a sense from the board if that is okay with them, because it would be coming, maybe we'd be doing a contract for that. And can I get a sense, Ms. Wilson? That's a yes, a nod. Dr. Chator? Yes, that's a nod as well. Ms. Lang? Yes. Ms. Savage? Ms. Smith, yes. Ms. Roach, and me, yes. So I know that it will take 8 weeks, and we don't have a meeting again for 2 weeks, which is 25, it's a quarter of that, right? 2 weeks out of 8. And so time being of the essence, Mr. Hogan, is it something that can be, how can we do this?
Well, the board can approve the contract next time, effective tomorrow. You can approve something retroactively. So if you want him to get started as soon as possible, we can just do a contract up right away and he can start.
I see nods all around the table
All right.
again. I know Ms. Tibbetts needs it understandably, audibly, but it looks like there's nods all around. So we very much appreciate this. Thank you for coming. But I think there's some additional things you want to talk about, operational costs and other things. I'm going to turn the mic over to Ms. Savage now on some other issues that are pretty much more staff.
Okay.
But thank you very much, Rich.
Thank you very much. That's a very, very reasonable and much more comfortable place to be than looking at hourly rate for an untold number of hours. So that's very helpful. In terms of our ultimate outcome, tonight we decided, I believe we have decided that we're going to invest in a demographic study so that we really know where we are in demographics. And we decided that we're going to invest in an architectural feasibility study, which is also going to, I understand, involve traffic flow, physical traffic flow around the buildings. And so I am just looking for clarity from staff that the two other things that I know of will be included. Well, let's call it 3 other things. One is operational costs, right? Because we know that it's going to be, presumably they'll be roughly comparable because all the schools are the same size, so they've got the same number of principals and whatever. But if there's other costs that potentially create any differences in terms of operational costs, maintenance of the facility, whatever it is, it could be different between them. And even just so that we know what that operational increase is versus the base budget, because we're going to be adding a school, we're adding another principal, another AP, another set of maintenance workers, another set of everything. We really want to understand what that is. So that's one, is operational costs. Number 2 is the one that you already began the investigation of, which is the impact on students in terms of transportation. And we have spoken, I think, all of us about Arbor Hill as a neighborhood school and how that might be radically changed under certain of these options. So we would want to investigate that thoroughly and see, not just for the one, but for all 3 scenarios, what the impact would be. And then finally, the last thing I wanted to ask about was this is partially architectural, but pedagogical and program distinctions between them, sort of the pros and cons of each of the scenarios that ultimately we would want to be able to have in a very similar format, all 3 scenarios, including the architectural costs and feasibility, the operational costs, the transportation impacts, and any other pros and cons of those facilities. And some of that work is yours, and some of it's not yours. But we need ultimately to get the whole package in one place so that we can really look at it. So that's what I wanted to say.
I appreciate your outlining those, Ms. Wilson.
Everything she outlined, but also the student migration part concerning the proximity, if that could be included with the present versus the future. I don't know if you outlined that.
Yeah.
You mean the whole dismissal flow, that thing, what I was talking about in terms of just,
Absolutely.
right. So, Bill, what I think will be helpful is probably, as a board, we will just put in writing what it is we're talking about. So with the superintendent not here, that we can convey to her the kinds of things we need in order to make that kind of decision. So I think that's it, and I
I have-
appreciate it
well,
being
I-
outlined. Yes, sir.
One question, I'm gonna just wanna ask, the demographic study, I should do the same thing, get a contract in place?
Let me
You will
just
approve
ask,
it the
I don't
15th?
think I actually got people weighing in. I think Ellen mentioned demographics, and then we kind of went off on everything else, which was good. So I don't know that everybody at all spoke about that to find out. So you said I was going to say to you, so can you get it down? I know it's not within you. I know, I'm like back again now at the shoot. Can we get it down to 10? But,
Right.
I understand that 15 is what it is. And even though we did that study recently, we can't like get a rider or an addendum or there's no such thing as an updated demographic. So we're looking only at the unborns,
Right.
the recently born.
Right.
No?
No.
Okay. Well, that's unfortunate. Ms. Wilson.
That's not, I'm just wondering, this is a question before I weigh in. Is that not public information? Can we not source that somewhere?
It's public, the report is public. The last one was done in December of 2015. And that's public, that's been public, we can put it out there again.
I think
I
Ms.
think
Wilson
I
is
understand your
asking.
question.
Go ahead.
I think the data is all public, but being able to pull it all together and get the numbers we need, like not just in terms of specifically pulling from census and stuff. How many kindergartners specifically in each neighborhood? Whoever's pulling in that information is the person we're paying.
And in addition, they also include in that the kind of questions that you were raising last time about building. They should in the demographic study include that, how many housing units are being built, how many housing units are being dismantled, what is the expected market for those housing units, are there going to be children in those housing markets or not? All of that gets in there.
The other thing too, I just thought of when I spoke to the gentleman today. They are in actually Ohio. They do a lot of. They're even local in March. They're going to do North Colony, I think, or South Colony. So they do a lot of work all over in New York State. But if they want, he said, if you want us to come and do a board presentation, that's like $1,200. We have to pay those expenses. But I don't think we need it. We're familiar with the report. But he also said he's going to be here in March, so that wouldn't cost anything if he came and met with us.
Oh, so that it would be 0, not 1,200 if he came in March.
Basically with staff.
Okay,
as opposed to
so
anybody.
0, I got the feel for the board.
Right.
0 is what we're paying for something other than the study. So if he
Exactly.
wants to come share with us
Right.
on a gratis, whether he comes alone or with
Right,
others,
right.
let's see, March,
But-
it's now January, right, so by then the study would be done.
Yeah, depending on when he comes in March. But we are used to these reports. We know what they mean. We
And
know how
I'm
to read 'em.
assuming we pay
Yeah.
not just for the report, but if there's a question, we then ask. He
Yeah,
just doesn't have
yeah,
to
we
come.
can ask them
And he
questions.
answers it.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
part
no,
of the contract.
they're a decent firm. We worked
okay.
with them before, and they actually remembered us.
All right, so can I get a sense of where the board is at in terms of going ahead with demographic? And again, it's not because they're making the decision in March. It's we're going to then have discussions that are truly informed with numbers and impacts and hopefully community members. Ms. Wilson, where are you on demographics?
If the details will empower our families and the people who reside in that community, then I think it's important.
To be honest with you, I think it's information for the boards and districts' use. I mean, I don't want to dress it up and make it seem like it's helping families. The impact on families is hopefully we wind up making the best decision.
That's what I mean.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and that'll empower us to help them, basically. Yeah.
Dr. Chator? No? Okay. Wait, no. No, he doesn't want to do a demographic study.
Oh.
Thank you for interpreting Dr. Chator's answer. It's an early night, and it's just what happens when we have no structure with a grade configuration study. Ms. Lang, yes or no on the study? Yes. Ms. Savage, yes or no?
Yes.
Ms. Smith? Yes. Ms. Roach?
Yes.
Okay, so there you have it. We are going ahead with demographic study, and what we will do is the stuff that we need from staff to also have it be fully fleshed out. So again, that's where Tabitha's words are important, not just for us, but so that the community knows all of the information. If something is operationally going to be more sound than others and more expensive, they need to know that. They need to know whether there's safety and security differences, through this. And we'll just need that running at the same time. And I guess what we're looking at with an 8-week turnaround on one thing and 6 on the other is it is realistic to imagine that about 8 weeks from now, 8 to 10 weeks from now, we will have all the information. We'll do at agenda setting, we will get it on wherever that is in terms of what that meeting is. And we will do all of the communication around making sure everything we get is out for the public to see and to come and hear all the questions that arise from that. So I think that that's it on grade configuration. Any other questions or comments from the board? Nope? Nope. Okay. Thank you so much, Mr. Peckham. Very appreciative of your time tonight. Thank you, Bill. And we are up to, sorry. We're up to board committee reports. Ms. Lang, do you want to start us off?
We had a government relations meeting on Wednesday morning at 8 o'clock with Mr. Hogan, Mr. Lesko, Mr. Chatur, Ms. Franz at Sheridan Prep, and we talked about next steps after we received the school runs. We confirmed that Assemblymember Fahey and Assemblymember McDonald will be at our March 1st meeting. They did come here last year as well. We thought that was successful, so we asked that they come again this year, which they will. We had followed up for transportation needs, pre-K needs after Cuomo's budget came out, and that was after our meeting with the legislators at the end of November, following our October meeting with Governor Cuomo's staff. We will follow up with the letter that we sent to Cuomo staff, Jamie Frank, with a letter to the Assembly members outlining a little bit more of what we detailed, what was detailed in the runs and where we need to go forward, including the 5% cap on special education and transportation costs that the governor has put in his budget this year that would devastate our best practices for our true costs and needs of our students. We will oppose or hope that that gets pulled out of his budget, as well as continuing our priorities that we've outlined for increasing our foundation aid, or at least getting the money we deserve from our foundation aid, as well as pre-K funding, STEM and science, which Ms. Adams has been heavily pushing for, and we'll continue that dialogue.
Was there an audit committee meeting, Ms. Roach?
Yes, there was. There was an audit committee meeting earlier this week, and we had our internal auditors come and present to us the draft of their annual report, where they focused on, I believe, their areas of interest were extracurricular funds, scholarships, and I don't remember I think it was, it's payroll and benefits, I believe, correct? Health insurance deductions. And they were overall very, very pleased with what they saw. We also discussed, only 2 of the 3 members were there, but we also discussed briefly the recommendation from the policy committee to adopt a new audit committee policy with more details about our relationship with our claims auditor. I'll spit it out. And we decided to discuss that at our next meeting with our new member, Ms. Wilson.
That's right. I was remiss at the last board meeting from providing information that Tabitha Wilson is now joining the audit committee, and Vicki is not on the audit committee any longer. Ms. Smith, if you could report on facilities.
Very happy to. The facilities committee has been very, very busy. I thought policy was pretty hectic, but this committee is quite busy, and we are learning new things every day about the construction industry, about workforce development. Incredibly exciting. Yes. So let me first start with the workforce development piece, and this is on the Albany Rebuild Project. We completed the 3 forums, which began in December and concluded on the 23rd of January. And I would say that we had great attendance, or nice attendance at all 3 forums, with the last being more of the workforce coming out. We are also, or we're also at those forums collecting information from potential workers and also MWBEs or potential MWBEs. And so we are working our way through some of those lists and are working on trying to schedule the OSHA classes with some of the vouchers that we have so that there's no cost to the potential workers. So we're working our way through this. The other piece two other pieces we've been working on, there's an RFP that we put out in the fall, I think November, and this was for a community advocate manager. This individual or individuals would really basically conduct our outreach to recruit the workforce and MWBEs, but also support their development. And so we are just about concluding a decision on that position or that RFP, and I believe we'll be in position at the next meeting to bring before the board a contract and for you to act upon. The next RFP that we have is really around a database where we would be basically putting all of this information on our workforce and MWBEs into a system so that we can monitor the work that we're doing, not only just our outreach efforts, but efforts to meet our goals. And so that RFP, we have received responses, and we are, believe, meeting in early February to review those and make a recommendation to the board. And the final thing that we've done, we voted upon this tonight, but we met and reviewed RFPs for district architect and, oh, I'm sorry, excuse me, we didn't. No, we didn't. We just made a recommendation. My apologies. And it's not even late. I can't even blame that. So at any rate, we met and made recommendations on the district architect and the construction manager. And so those will come to you in February, later this month. And so we've been very busy, and we will continue to be. So I just wanted to, a special thanks to our staff, Mr. Hogan, Ben Mara, and Mr. Lesko and his team. They've just been incredibly supportive around this board initiative. So, and the board, thank you as well.
Thank you so much. Did I miss any committees? I don't think so. Other business? Anything else anybody wants to talk about or share out? I just want to thank the board. I know it seemed like we were a little, somebody said like punch drunk tonight, but I do think great configuration, which is long-term visioning and long-term digesting of information, and then going back, people who've been on the committee, I can see somebody out there, but that it's been going on for many years. And so there's a lot to digest and a lot to move forward with, and huge decision making. So tonight, even though it seemed like if you listen to the tape, maybe we will sound slightly silly. In reality, what we were doing is actually did analysis of 3 different, and if you look at what Anne brought up and was able to explain what we also needed from an operational standpoint, something like 5 or 6 categories of things. So I just wanted to thank the board for the diligence in going through those materials and for even making the hard decisions of just going forward with contracts to move to the next stage for that, because I think that that itself is an important part of the work, not just the ultimate decision down the road. So with nothing else, can I get a motion to adjourn? Ms. Smith, seconded by Ms. Roach. All those in favor? And we are adjourned. Thank you all.
Yes.
If I don't have to say anything, it's a good night.
You don't mind.